the topic, and after that, we're going to have the debate. Okay.
I'm going to share now. So the live is also working, I hope. And I'm going to share now my screen so you can also see the presentation that we prepared. And in the meantime, again, if you want to tell us your name and where are you coming from and why you are here, you can tell us, like you can tell us in the chat so everyone can see it. 1 second, okay. I really hope you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Is it working? Yes, perfect. Okay. Then, as Carmina mentioned, this is our second European Café. It's called Is There Fake in the Real World? Because we are going to talk about fake news. We had another, like the first European Café was called Is Europe Going in the Right Direction? Because it was about the rising of the right-wing movements and parties in Europe, and we had a really nice discussion about it. And what are we going to do? So me and Carmina here, we're going to moderate the event, but we're going to leave the floor to Diana and to everyone else, because this event is actually about you and is a chance for you to discuss this relevant topic and share your opinion with us and with everyone here. And as we mentioned before, like grab a coffee or a tea or water or everything that you want, because we want to do this in an informal way and just not have a real like serious conversation. But yes, we are discussing about a serious topic, but we want to do it in an informal way as well. And as Carmina mentioned, this is part of the Shaping the Future of Europe campaign. What is Shaping the Future of Europe? So this campaign has been happening for almost a month. And what we want to do, we want to bring young people together and we want to hear your voices and we want to discuss about the future of Europe. So that's why we have this name and that's why we have this this campaign, because we also want to empower you to discuss about it, to discuss about real key issues that are happening right now in Europe. And we have the European cafes. We're going to have one more in March, one in April. So you're going to see more events like this one, but on different topics. We're also going to have youth lives. They are like some live Erasmus and Erasmus Online. And we really like encourage you to participate. We also have right now a call out to audience. You can see on our Facebook page, you can also see it in the on the screen right now, do one brave thing. And you can share, for example, through art, what do you think about the future of Europe? And something really exciting, we're going to have a youth summit that's going to happen in April. And we're going to share everything on our Facebook page. So if you are interested in the next events or even this one, you can see everything on our page. And I'm going to leave now Carmina to tell you about our project, because actually this initiative is part of a bigger project. And I'm going to let her now to tell you about it.
Okay, so very, very fast, because I don't want to say a lot of things and spend a lot of time here. So we indeed do one brave thing. It's our main project. And it's part of, it's a project from Patrir. And this project, it's mostly about youth and about the problems that youth in general is confronting with. So it empowers young people and provides skills and capabilities to effectively engage and counter radicalization, extremism, without resorting to violence. So we have webinars, we have different campaigns, we have boot camps on topics related, for example, on mental health, on fake news, as you see, as last time we talk about right wings. We also have events that are more like informal, as Erasmus one that will come up with Shaping the Future of Europe. You can find more about us and more about the project and the events, as Verena said, on social media, because you can find us on LinkedIn, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find us actually everywhere. We are everywhere, also in the YouTube channel. So you can find videos what we are trying to talk about in our events. Okay. So very quickly, today's agenda for the event is first we introduce you to the event as we we did. After that, we're gonna meet the speaker. We're gonna meet Diana, and she's gonna talk about. She's gonna introduce herself, and after that, the topic, presentation, and after that, we're gonna begin to talk about the topic and a quick debate, questions. So we're just gonna very informal way, because I want to point out as I have a blanket right now, so it's gonna be really informal, and anyone can ask anything that's going through his or her mind. So feel free to talk about. So let's begin. Diana, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm really happy to be able to talk to you about this subject. It's a very funny circle, let's say, for me, because I'm signing the papers as president of Forum Apulum, which is an NGO, civic NGO from Transylvania, from Alba Iulia. And I'm also community leader for DCN Romania, which is also a big organization who is working on bringing people together and fighting radicalisation and other forms of extreme manifestations. And I'm saying that it comes somehow in a circle, because almost 4 years ago, our first event as Forum Apulum was about fake news. We made the conference in the university in Alba Iulia, and we discussed this very hot new topic, the fake news. We were a bunch of people who have gathered and decided to make the paperwork for a legal association, organization, a non-profit in a small town in Transylvania, which seems very weird and crazy, and it still seems like this even 4 years after we started. And we thought about doing something on working with teenagers, especially with young people, in order to help them understand better the country where they come from, in this case, Romania, and also to understand the history and how it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes from time to time. It was 2017. It was the year after Brexit was voted. It was the year after Donald Trump was elected. And it was the year when the word of the 2016 year before was post-truth. So right in the beginning in Romania, we had very big protests, the biggest protest after the revolution. And we were starting to and trying to understand how is this new world settling down and how will this affect us. From the point of view of the young people in Romania, we felt like we were very advantaged, because we felt that we had a generation and generations of young people of very progressive and open-minded people, young ones who are open to the globalization, want to travel, want to invest their time in connecting with other people. So we weren't very worried about them. But as time passed, we started seeing some emerging signs of danger in this area. We had the referendum in 2018 meant to fight to ban any possibility of legalization of gay marriage. And that pushed a very, very big wave of fake news in Romania and manipulation and propaganda. And we started that referendum to feel like we are split in two, in the progressive ones who want to give rights to everyone and not judge anyone, and a more conservative part of Romania. Once again, in that fight, the younger generation was on the right side of things, let's say, because they understood that you can't move forward as a community, as a society, if you judge or if you mistreat one part of the society. And it was about battle won. The referendum had failed, but the seeds, let's say, were planted of fighting in two sides. And afterwards, we started seeing more and more fake news. And I remember that in 2019, when we had 2 rounds of elections, everywhere we went in meeting other NGOs, people, we were very proud of the Romanians, and especially about the young people. And we bragged everywhere, the Romanians are voting very progressive and the pro-European Union, and they're very open-minded and stuff like that. And everyone around us, geographically speaking, was very scared of the young people and their vote. And they said, no, they're turning very far right, and they're or very far left, and this is not okay. We kind of miss people, young people who are in the center, because as one side goes further to the right, the other one goes further to the left, and we end up with very two different opinions and bubbles, let's say. And it was funny because we were like the only ones proud of the younger generation from this regard, and we always contradict them that no, the young people they understand more about how the world goes. But I always had somewhere in my mind the memory of some elections in Romania in 2000, in the year 2000, when I think we had the biggest turning point in our history after the revolution, because we had to choose between a far right candidate and a, let's say, left candidate as president. But the far right was as far right as you can go. I mean, he had in his platform executions, public executions on a stadium, and you can whatever you can imagine as being extremist, he said it. And I know that in 2000, a lot of young people voted for him. A lot of young people. It's shockingly how many people voted for him. It's funny even now because I see him on memes, and he's now turning back as a very cool figure because people don't remember how bad he was and how big a danger he was, basically. And with that in mind, I always kept an eye on how the teenagers are viewing this, because what the lesson is with fake news is that it's not itself just a problem. It comes in pairs. Once you have fake news taking over, then you have propaganda, and once you have propaganda, at some moment you will have someone who will take advantage of that. And that someone could be a populist, could be a far right or far left figure, someone who can charm the audience and somehow making the lines between truth and untruth and fake disappear. And this is what scared us all the time. And last year, for the first time, we saw in Romania that the fake news were catching on to young people. It's been a phenomenon which, as I said, we were quite scared of, but hoped it won't happen anytime soon. I personally had my own predictions, which I always said that in the next round of elections in 2024, we will have a far-right party voted in the parliament. Well, I was wrong because we have it now, but we skipped 4 years. We went ahead 4 years. But why did that happen? That's the big question. And the answer is that it started reaching the young people's quality of life, 2020, because it was the year of the pandemic, the year when traveling was not so easy to do, almost at all, when their lives were affected, when they couldn't hang out with friends, they couldn't have a normal, let's say, life. And when you have this state of discomfort, be it adult or young people, young person, you tend to search for explanations or for a solution or for something which is radical and quick, and it will take some of the pressure off you. So for a lot of young people in Romania, that solution was, this is a conspiracy, or they are not telling us the whole truth, or the government or the system is against us. They want to punish us. They want to forbid us for being free and walking without a mask. And this pushed them further down the line into buying into the fake news, which I'm pretty sure 1 year ago and 1.5 years ago, they would have laughed at. I mean, we had a lot of workshops where we were talking to teenagers about the QAnon before it was cool, let's say. And everybody was laughing. I mean, like, yeah, how can they be so stupid? How can they believe that? Well, QAnon exploded in Romania last year in communities. Tens of communities were built around QAnon because you were stuck at home, you were bored, and this weird umbrella of conspiracy, as QAnon is, gave you a few explanations, made you feel special, made you feel like, it's not about you, it's them. It's not your fault, it's them. And it gained a lot. It managed to become more and more known, and it transformed into votes in the elections we had in December. And from, let's say, September, August until December, it managed to make a big shift, like press a button in the minds of the teenagers. The signs were there. During the entire last year, we had a lot of meetings with young people, and we usually gave them some tests and some questionnaires, and asking them to find the fake news, to spot fake news or real news. The percentage of being able to spot the fake news was incredibly low, even in pretty educated groups of people. So it's not about education, it's about the mood you are in, the feelings you have. And so the signs were there that they were not convinced but by the fake news, but they chose to believe them. That's the big difference. So whenever we talk about fake news, we should never forget that it's not something that only people with a certain level of education will buy into, but it's the people who are in an emotional stage in their life because of financial difficulties or restrictions or whatever, so that they choose to embrace conspiracy because it's a comfort zone. And also what we've learned is that conspiracy theories, because we are not talking only about separate fake news random, we have them under a certain big umbrella, are also creating communities. So this is an aspect which is less discussed, but it's very real. Now I think Facebook took down a lot of, like, tens of groups of QAnon in Romania, 70 in the last part, but more and more during the last month. But if you had the curiosity of going on that groups, you would find a community. You would find people who, yes, they would talk about the Kabbalah, who is running the world and stealing children and eating them or whatever. But at the same time, you would see people wishing each other happy birthday and talking about how hard it is for them to be alone and how difficult life in the pandemic is. So they had all the elements of a pandemic. So I think 4 or 5 years ago, we could have discussed about fake news from a very objective point of view, like spotting them and the social media impact and stuff like that. I think now the only way we can really look at it is that it is based on the need of people to belong to someone, some place, some group, some community. And the fact that as long as we are isolated in this difficult situation of the pandemic, and after we get out, we even have to face some financial troubles or some other difficulties, this will only become more deep. It will become deeper and more problematic, because fake news do not appeal to objectivity and to reason. They appeal to emotions. And as long as we are, as a world, in a very anxious state, let's say, we will definitely not get rid of this. So, for example, just to close my ideas, I was listening yesterday to the podcast made by the New York Times, and they were sort of trying to understand how the community of QAnon believers were adapting to the new reality that it didn't happen as they were expecting to happen. And I've heard a lady from New York who graduated from Harvard, and who put so much trust in this incredible conspiracy theory that it was just amazing. And she said that she feels in that group of QAnon believers as in a community of friends. So if someone who graduated from Harvard and is living in New York and is a very globalized person, pro-global person and understands things, how can we expect from a modest person, wherever else in the world, to not be captured by this same basic feeling of belonging? So if we want to tackle fake news, I don't think that fighting against algorithms or fighting against each separate piece of fake news is the way, but to try to reach out a hand to the people in the other bubbles and to try to understand what's wrong in their lives and to share our vulnerabilities with them and to say that we are all in this situation, that we all have problems and worries, and to listen more to them. Because if there is a trait of the people who became more radicalized, is that they isolated themselves from, or were isolated from, the other members of the family who could reason them out, get them to a point of understanding, and becoming isolated just push them more down this rabbit hole of extremism. So I feel that we will have 4 years of very, very difficult situations all around the world. I think it is a very good ground, fertile ground for conspiracy and for distrust and for extremism in either left or right. So we really, really need to try to understand, how to talk to each other and how to stop judging each other and connect more. So there is no other way, no matter the age. But if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them also, or your experiences.
Thank you, Diana. It was really actually amazing, because there are some things that I knew, but some of them I was like, I would just, for example, you said that fake news, it's based more on emotions. I didn't think of this before, because I was always saying that no, fake news, I mean, you just need to be educated, you need to know what's happening in politics. But you said that even if you know what's happening in politics, you still can be attacked by the fake news. I didn't think of this before, so that's very interesting. um okay, so if anyone has questions right now about fake news in general, of the presentation that Diana just made, if you're curious about something that is rated fake news, or as she said, or she asked, if you have any experiences about fake news, I mean, if you're confronted with fake news but you didn't know at that time, only after analyzing a little bit and after changing the mood and seeing a different light.
I would add here also that one of the cutest fake news, let's say, if we can use this combination of words, is was the news about the dolphins invading Venice in March or April. That was completely fake, of course, but it was from the category of fake, which you were very you had doubts about debunking, because people were in such a very, I don't know, stressed period, and the dolphins going through Venice seemed like the only good thing which was on the internet at that point, and it really, really spread. But of course, it was fake. But it was funny. I mean, we just try to imagine how it would be like to be in Venice and see also dolphins through the canals. So there are also cute fake news, let's say.
Yeah, that one was kind of innocent, let's say, but there are some more on the extreme way. Yeah, if fake news were like that, dolphins, that would be amazing, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so anyone with any question, any argument, any idea, anything that you want to add, or you want to ask, you want to, I don't know, you're curious about something.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Taking well. I'm sorry for not connecting at the beginning and not introducing myself. My name is Uliana, and I'm originally from Moldova. Currently, I live and study in Czech Republic. It's my first year here. Um, the way I opened this whole meeting, just clicking at a link in Facebook, and it just catched my eye because as a young person, I honestly admit that I have not enough information about this, not enough knowledge about fake news. I honestly admit it, but I always struggled with it being back home because unfortunately in my country it's really hard to observe, to understand what is right and what is wrong, because the society is being splitted very radically. It's like living in a society where people think black and white, and being born in a family, unfortunately, in a family where it's mostly about being just white and black, not being very open-minded. I came here, and this is when I started to realize about fake news, about the way society and social media and everything is affected us, and we don't really we don't really understand until we actually meet with real facts. So thank you for, I'm just here to get some more knowledge. Yeah.
The idea of fake news in general and the people who promote it is not to necessarily convince you of something. If they can, that would be great, but at least to make you feel like you are lost in information, like you don't say it's too much information, I don't know what's right or wrong, so I'm sick of it. You just stay in sort of a gray area where you don't care about what you believe, and you don't search for informations, and you don't check what you read. So it's hard having access to so much information, but not all of it is curated in a way that you believe what you know. And it's also very tricky because we are basically two categories of people, let's say very roughly, people who were not born with this technology, with internet, and we had to go from believing and having certain trust in newspapers and in televisions, and we knew that the content which reached us was at some point curated by someone or checked by someone, so we had a certain level of trust. We had to go to an era where on the internet you could say anything and nobody would check you. And we have the second, let's say, very big category of people who were born with the internet and were so used to it, but they, I think, probably now or from some point on, they will learn that is very tricky, the internet, because it gives you access, but it doesn't give you what you need. It just gives you access to anything. So you have to be a more attentive, a more careful curator of what you consume by reading. So before, everything you were learned or taught by professors was at some point curated. Someone thought this is what you should know, or you should be curious, you should have this. But now you can know anything, but it's your own mind which has to select between the ideas. So it's very hard. It's very hard for both categories. And I think the internet is like a wild animal. I don't think we tamed it until now. So we're still working on it. And what's very important is to know that I will go with a very similar and very known comparison. In Germany, Hitler and the Nazi Party existed long before they took power. But the right moment when they took the power and gained the votes, democratically, by the way, was when they had a very big crisis. And people started feeling that their lives are changing, and they didn't want to do that. So we don't know what the next years will give us, but definitely won't be like a walk in the woods. It will be definitely something complicated and very, full of anxiety. And this is a very good ground to plant some seeds of extremism and of populism. That's why we have to be double careful when we read, and to also listen. You know, with what you were saying, Juliana, about your parents or your family. We need to not just know that they are seeing the world in white and black. We should engage them in a very, let's say, humane way, and start to understand them, and to see how we can reach a common ground, or just push them a little bit, not more, but just a step towards embracing more, and to do our best. It won't. We will fail sometimes, but at least we try.
Nice. I also have a question. It's not just for Uliana and Diana, but for everyone. Because you said like you have these people in your family, for example, that are thinking black and white. And maybe at some point you do the same. And then you like see the real facts, you see the facts, and you actually change your opinion. How do we do that? Because I know, Diana, you started a little bit of conversation, but how do you, when you come back to your country or your family, how do you convince them that, okay, I went to another country or another city and I realized that the things are not white and black? How do we convince them or everyone else that things are different? Because they are not going to see the facts, you know, and maybe they're not going to believe us as well. So how do we do that? I don't know if any of you have any ideas or from your experience as well.
I think the best technique I have until now, which is not, let's say, doesn't work all the time, but it's the best I have until now, is not to preach, but to listen. And if you have someone which you feel like has a radical idea or a different view of the world, let's say, than you have, because I'm very skeptical about the term radical, you should ask them more. Why do you believe that? Well, how do you form your opinions? Who do you look up to? Why is that? Tell me something that happened which you see like a good thing or a bad thing. So for me, let's say if someone asks me a lot of questions about one belief I have, first of all, it makes me reanalyze it again and again. It makes me see the weak spots because I have to present it to someone else in a coherent way. And it also helps me, even if I don't admit it during the discussion, but afterwards I have like a pause and thinking, hey, he was right asking that question. What would be my answer if I don't know it? Or so asking people helps them reflect. Asking them not in a offensive way, but in a way like, I really want to understand. So please explain to me, why are you against this, or why are you pro this? And this works if you have enough patience and some time, and you put your ego a bit aside. It kind of works. But it's a game of egos in both cases. I mean, for us who are asking, and we in our mind, we are like, we know how it's right, and we know what you should believe, but you don't believe this, so it's so annoying for me to do this. And for the other part who feels exactly the same, but in a different, on the other side of the mirror. So we need to understand that it's not all about us, and we need to shape our opinions in time. I'm definitely not the same person as I was 10 years or 5 years ago or 2 years ago. And that's a good thing. I think we should keep this in mind. If Juliana has a different tactic, I'm curious to find out.
I actually just wanted to say something that it really worries me when it comes to fake news, which is, at what point can I also be manipulated by social media, even though I'm aware of fake news and that I try to look for information on different platforms? And because this is something that we can't really see it happening in front of us, and it's very subtle, and it touches a lot of different components, like you said, Diana, our feelings and our emotional state especially, and depending also on the context. which would be worse in case of if they're happening elections or something like this. And so I really don't know how to be sure that I'm also a victim of fake news, and that I'm actually not making it worse by sharing some posts or some news that I'm seeing. And I think this is something that maybe a lot of people think as well. And it makes it even more difficult to really know what's real from what is not. I think there's not really an answer for this, but I think it reached a point where social media are being used for different purposes than the ones that they were first created for, and are a little of kind of breaking society apart by having this. I'm saying this based on some of the documentaries that I've seen on social media, especially the Cambridge Analytica scandal, for instance, and how they managed to have all of this information on ourselves that we are not even aware of it. And so it makes it really a complex issue, and because we on one side we can't be disconnected, but on the other side, when we know what's happening, you really get scared. And yeah, I think this will be a problem that we'll face on the next years, and hopefully we should try to have some regulation, and also some more attention to be given to this field, because it's really important, and technology is being I think it's the most expensive industry at the moment. And so it will be the future. And yeah, just sharing my thoughts on this.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. It's great. I've had this dilemma of where should we push first on regulating social media platforms or doing media literacy education, pushing it strongly. So I think it's a mixture. As you were saying, that how to prevent falling from yourself from falling down this rabbit hole, I would say just pay very much attention to your own feelings when you are exposed to information. So this kind of backfired. This was the first thing we were saying at all workshops with people about, if it stirs emotion, the news, then probably there's something fishy over there. And now with in a pandemic, all news are stirring emotions. So it's very hard to say which is fake, which is not, because the world is going through an incredible stage right now. But double check, at least double check. Check what you believe, check what you share. I don't share anything unless I check it before, because I don't want to spread it. If I share it and then I discover that it was a mistake, or I post it, I take it down and I post it, be careful about this. This was a fake news, and yeah, it happens to fall and believe them. But to share it, we can Google search images, we can share for articles. If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. If the title sounds like a clickbait, it probably is a clickbait. So choose very wisely your sources, and choose journalism, high quality journalism to rely on. Don't buy on websites which are very weird. Because any one of us can make a website and put there whatever they want and say ABC News Romania, and that's it. So be careful about that. I was having a discussion talking about this, as you were saying, on regulating and making sure that the content is somehow curated on the internet. But and I had this discussion with the guy who's a specialist in IT, and he said that there's no way we can catch up with the ones who are creating fake news. So we can't be a step ahead of them, no matter what we do, because if we close a platform, they will move to another. If we close, so they are very, very well organized. They are far better organized than we believe, and we know they are. You have to imagine that if fake news is a concept old of 2,000 years ago. It's been created more, it's been used more than 2000 years ago in the Roman Empire. The conspiracy theories websites and internet groups have been active since the beginning of the internet, like the 90s, when it became sort of mainstream. We had some type of conspiracy theory planning on the internet. So they will adapt. They will definitely adapt. As you can see this unrolling now with the migration from Facebook and Twitter to Parler, and then putting Parler down and bringing Parler up. They will find a way. They are on Slack, they are on Discord, they are everywhere we don't look. They are on Telegram, they're on Signal. So they are still there. We shouldn't lie to ourselves that they're not. But what we can do is try to attack in a very humane way their targets. I mean, if we know that we have friends who are more vulnerable to this, not because they're not smart enough, but because they are in a period where they are vulnerable to this, we should engage with them. We should connect with them. We should ask them, how are you? Are you okay? You need to talk. It would really help to pull them out of this area of being vulnerable. Definitely, we are now talking about young people, and it's scary that they're also in this situation. But if we look to the grandparents or some of our parents, then the battle is even harder to take because they are more vulnerable. Yeah, we should mix the bubbles. I would say this is the only way we can fight this. Mix the bubbles, force us to go outside of the comfort zone and try to understand and to try to talk, because there is no other way. We can't regulate internet in such a way so they don't exist. I don't think it's possible. And we can't educate everyone on media literacy. So we have to work with what we have, with emotions and with connections. And to, first of all, I don't know, put our ego aside and try to connect. I don't see any other way. But yeah, it's hard. So it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of work. But we don't have any choice because, as you see, the world can be put upside down in a few days. So we need to be focused and careful and mindful of people around us all the time.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think the hardest part is really to make some, to try to gain people's attention of what is happening, and that they really need to double check everything they share online, because most people, they really don't do it. And I'm not sure if this is because they're not aware of it. I think we're not on that phase anymore, but simply because they don't bother to do it. And I think that's the danger in here, because it's like we know it, but we keep on ignoring it. And then when we realize it's too late, or in the case of the democratic elections, it was really very difficult to watch and to see, for instance, whether it was on the Brexit case or in the United States, democracy is really failing, and people completely lost their belief on democracy and on how things were. And I think we really need to start paying more attention to what's happening and to connect dots, because it's not only in Europe, it's all around the world.
I would say that democracy is not failing. We are failing democracy. Democracy is a system,
Yes.
a very good system, but if you don't take care of it, it will just disintegrate. So this is what we should. I think the problem is that we relaxed too much in the 90s, let's say, in the beginning of the 2000s. We relaxed too much as, let's say, this part of the world, like the Western part of the world and the Europe part of the world. We relaxed way too much. In other parts of the world where dictatorships are just around the corner or ongoing, they understand. It's like there. But we just said after 89 and 90, we said like, yes, now we're going to go into a golden age and everything is okay, no populists will come. But it's not like that. So democracy has to be constantly supported. If you fail, then it will go to pieces. And also, if you don't pay attention, it can be used. This is something that I see a lot on the internet, but not enough, apparently, that Hitler was elected democratically. And he used democracy against us, let's say, as humanity, but he knew how to handle the system. So if we go away from the system and say we don't care about politics, democracy is fading, or the capitalism is blah, 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 we don't care, then it doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just means that it will happen easier because we're not paying attention and we're just complaining in our own bubbles of, oh, we're so good, we're too good for politics, we are so smart, we don't want to know about that. No matter what, we like it or not, politics will take place, politicians will be in power, people will take power, and it's our choice if we fight for democracy or we just, I don't know, we just say that we don't care anymore. So yeah, we have to really engage in every levels of society. It's complicated and it's hard. That's why it's hard to maintain it.
Yes, I agree.
I have a quick question that came when you said about us as people, that we failed democracy, not democracy failed us. I have a curiosity if like this, when we talk about Europe, if we already know that it's a little bit of difference of mentality between us in the East and the Western countries. It's also like a difference the way we perceive fake news and the way we can fight against fake news and the way they are doing now.
Yeah, I think we should we should embrace the differences because they won't go away, but it's hard to know how to tackle it. And I think we are part of a project which monitors disinformation in several countries, in Georgia, Romania, Greece, Italy, and we've been monitoring it since April. And we see patterns. So it's the same thing. It's mostly the same basic ideas pushed. They adapt to each country, to the specific of each country, but basically they are the same. So I think we are in full campaign of pushing narratives from Russia and China. I think that's pretty safe to say that this is the case. And the only way in all countries is to tackle this is to engage with the other people. And I think the same problem is in Romania as in the UK. Let's say if we saw a lot of documentaries after Brexit that people who voted for Brexit were disappointed by something, by their financial situation, by the loss of the jobs, of a job or something, of being isolated, lacking communities, feeling that the country doesn't belong to them anymore. And the same thing we can see in Romania, or we can see in Moldova, or we can see in other places, people who are somehow disconnected from the communities and don't feel that they belong there anymore. And they feel like the system is failing them. And the US is the same. So the only way we should tackle this is in building sort of bridges between us. I don't know someone who does it better. I think we're all like struggling and trying to find some ways. So I don't know which country is doing it better. But yeah, we should definitely adapt the strategy to each country's specific, because even if we have common traits in the fake news, they are very organic because they adapt very, very well to where you plant them. If you put it in Romania, they will have a different shape. If you put it in Bulgaria, they will have a different shape, and same Moldova and everywhere. So we have to respond adapted, but somehow on the same idea of connecting with people, pushing media literacy, and as much as we can regulate the social media platforms in the future.
Yeah, actually, as you're saying, and now I was also thinking, so it depends. You said that fake news, it goes really hand in hand with people who already have like some issues with the system, or they're just disappointed with what's happening in their country. So this is what it's happening with the new generations, because I was kind of more optimistic about fake news slowing down as for the new generations coming. But as you said, as I understood before, it's same for the new generations.
It's becoming pretty much the same because of this situation. It wasn't present, at least in Romania, it wasn't present before, but it's becoming, let's say, similar, because the discomfort they feel in this period, like we all do, is pushing them towards this more than it was before. And I'm pretty sure we won't be back to a normal world anytime soon. So their lives are very affected by it. I would be also very pissed off if I were 18 and made plans of going abroad, university or traveling more, something like that, and the pandemic hit. Because as they told me, some young people told me in several discussions, you only are 18 once or 16 once, and it has a certain meaning. It has a certain. It's nice to have also 26 or 36. You're all anyway. You're going to be that age also once, but it's not the same as being 16 once. So they feel like something is stolen from them. And you really can't point the finger of someone who stole it for you, because nobody wanted the pandemic. I mean, nobody. But so then you have like a general hate against the system. You just have a general frustration. And that frustration will go somewhere, voting for a certain political party or becoming disenfranchised, let's say, as in the community, or becoming disconnected from the others. But it will be manifested in a way or another. So if we don't acknowledge it and try to understand it and try to, I don't know, find some ways to cope with it, it will be problematic, I think. We already see it happening in other countries. If we look at Hungary, if we look at Poland, there the younger generations are leaning sometimes in extreme directions. So in their vote, I mean, in their actions. So it is a warning sign coming from that party also to us.
That's true. But what do you think we can do? I mean, as you said, it's my own opinion. Okay, I voted with that because I felt that I want to vote for that. So I chose that way. But how can you explain to someone that has they didn't think really well, and they didn't think objectively based on what they're feeling? I mean, it's their feelings. Say, okay, I felt like that, so don't blame me. I mean, you can have an argument with them, because you can't blame their feelings. How can you explain to a person that what did he or she did choosing the fake news, it's wrong?
I would try to point out the consequences. I would try to discuss about the consequences, and also try to connect in sharing my own experience. If we talk about, let's say, this pandemic, which hit us all very hard, we as adults, I think we have a duty of discussing with the younger generations about our feelings. I don't think we talk about that enough. We don't share enough. There is this conception that after a certain age, you become an adult and you're like serene and grown up all of a sudden, and you're very mature, and you don't have anxieties and don't have depression and don't have mood swings, which is, as we very well know, is fake. It's not like this. So we should first of all share with them that we are going through similar phases, like we faced anxiety during these months, depression probably, or days when we didn't feel like getting out of bed. So it's normal, it's natural, it's something we all are in this. We're in this together, even if it's not what we wished for. So first of all, try to feel like they are okay, they are like us. We're all the same. The second one is to talk a lot to them about how weirdly history unrolls, how one small what it was like when a butterfly flips the wings in some country, there's a hurricane in another. It's somehow like this. When you share and you convince people of some conspiracy theories, you never know who you will push, which button, to whom will you push a button that would push them over the edge into believing this stuff. As we saw in the US, in DC at the Capitol, this is how it looks like. When fake news become alive, that's how it looks like. It's violent, it's aggressive, it's anarchy, is pointless. And people die, people end up suffering from it. I would also push this narrative. Like, this is what happens when a lot of people choose to believe something which they feel comfortable about, and they don't want to check it. And they just fall down a hole of lying to themselves and creating an alternative reality, because this is what we're talking about. We saw in the US elections, basically two different realities clash. The reality of QAnon and the conspiracy theory believers, and the real world. Well, nothing was going to happen. No storm, as it was called, was happening. So I would definitely recommend to follow this story of the American democracy from 2016 to 2020, because it's very interesting to see how people choose to believe, how people face disappointment, how it turns out to be violent, and how it gets out of hands. So it's a cautionary tale, basically, the Capitol attack, which we should not forget, and we should remember it over and over again, and hope that it's not just the beginning, because I was very afraid when the Capitol attack happened that we will cross a point of no return in that moment, and the world, we had no idea how it will change after that. So it was a moment when I think the entire world was holding the breath and saying, like, if this goes wrong, we literally don't know where it will go. It could be a 9/11 once again, let's say, as an impact on humanity. And it was pretty close to being that. So we should learn from it. So this is an example which I would give. It's a very stretched line from believing the Kabbalah and almost killing congressmen, but, well, it happened in only a few years, like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's very important to give people, I mean, if they're a little bit stubborn, let's say, and just straightforward, I have my own thinking, my own vision, so I'm not going to listen to others. Yeah, that I found it really interesting to point out, okay, do you remember when this happened? Do you want to go back there? Do you want this to happen again? No, you don't want. Then think a little bit more. I mean, not putting pressure on them to think like something like, I mean, to think like someone like you or like someone else, but to make them think more and to see more point of views, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true. Okay, if anyone has questions about or anything that comes in their mind with related to this topic, don't be shy, come on.
I am curious about something. I've been holding this for the whole conversation because I remember, Diana, you shared with us the example of that woman from Harvard, that she was like in this community and so on. So I was thinking, because for me, all the time, I was thinking that one of the best tools to fight fake news is education. So if we have education, and if we are educated, the chances to believe in fake news are like not that high. But actually, like as you mentioned, now we have these communities, and they are going for our feelings and not for, like, doesn't matter if you have like a Harvard degree or something. In the end, the chance to believe it is like really high. So I wanted to ask, like, how, like, for example, I'm an educated person, and I think right now, if I read something, and if it's something that's related to something that I believe in, and also like my feelings, and I'm in this group on Facebook or like a community that actually understands me, how can, in the end, I can fight this? Like, what tools do we have there? Because we are also, like, in our project in Do One Brave Thing, we are also trying to do this, like we are trying to educate young people. But in the end, if education is not enough, like how young people, for example, who are part of these communities, because everyone here, I think we are part of Facebook groups. How can we fight this? And it's not just for Diana, but also for the others, maybe like from your experience as well. Like, do you have, I don't know, like what tools do you think we can use in this case?
Avoid the bubble, I'd say. I mean, we all have a bubble, but we should like make a small door in the bubble and get out sometimes and try to look at it from a more objective perspective. It's, as I'm pretty sure the other people who are very educated and chose to believe in these theories, I don't think they chose it and embraced it overnight. I think it was a very long process, and they bought something and then the other one and then the other one, and then they just discovered that they are tangled in this problem. And also it's an algorithm trick, because as you know, the most, let's say, dangerous platform for this is YouTube, and YouTube is leading you down a rabbit hole very easily. So if you watch a certain type of content, it will give you only that type of content. So it will make you stay in that area. So you really have to pull yourself out and go to into another direction. What I do is I try to curate a bit my news. I mean, I don't have only my type of channels to which I'm subscribed to. I follow the other opinions. In my Google News app, I also have subscriptions to Fox News, to Breitbart. I want to know what they say. It doesn't mean that they are, I want to know the other truth, let's say, but I want to know what's the discussion. And every time I read a title from, if you read the title from Fox News and then you read the title from CNN, definitely they're different. But seeing them one next to another, you say like, okay, so it probably, this is a bit too subjective, maybe this is too subjective, and you start analyzing what you believe. So I think this is a first step of exposing yourself also to other ideas. And what I was saying before of connecting with people from different bubbles, it will also help you clear your thoughts when talking to someone who has, let's say, completely different opinions. It will make you question, but why do I believe this? Have I checked this? Do I know it for sure? Or am I manipulated in believing this? So yeah, this would be exposing ourselves to other bubbles, to other people, to other pieces of news, of information, and checking all the time what we know. And it's a very funny example. Let's say, for example, I was talking about the lady from New York who is a Harvard graduate and who embraced QAnon conspiracy. And at the same time, I saw today on the news that in a village in Romania, like literally a village in the middle of Romania, some guys dressed up as monks were putting in for each house, they were leaving some leaflets with anti-vaccine discourse. So they were promoting anti-vaccine dressed as monks in order to put a certain level of credibility to it. And there were some interviews on the street from reporters who were saying, asking the people who received it, what did they believe and if they read it. And people who definitely were not educated, but simple people from peasants from Romania was like, well, like, so they said, I just put it on the fire. Who brings me this? Why do they bring this? What do they want from you? They want something from me. I don't believe it. I don't even read it. Or another guy was saying, I choose to believe what I can with my own mind. It doesn't have to be someone to put me in my door what to believe. So it's a very, very sane way of figuring out that someone was trying to trick you because they were coming at your door and putting you stuff in the door. So they were very like, I don't think I want to buy what you're telling me. So we have two types of very different types of people who one chose to believe it, one said, no, I'm not going to believe you. You're not selling me this. So what does this show is that you have to cultivate your inner critic, let's say, to be a little bit of, I don't know, be always circumspect about something. I don't know if I want to believe you, prove me or show me, or so we should keep this inner part of us always. And yeah, push education definitely decreases the chances of falling in this, but it's not the only way. So we shouldn't forget about the other parts, like cultivating your cynicism sometime, your sarcasm, your irony, and your also empathy to other people. Like if you see that someone else believes it, okay, I want to understand why. Tell me, maybe I can shift my mind also, or test my ideas.
Thank you. I think that's very useful, not just for me personally, but also for everyone here and the ones who are watching. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if anyone has any other question or opinion. Of course, you can share your ideas as well, here from your experience or from what you've learned so far, or from the discussion as well. If not, oh, okay. So I'm gonna read like super quick what Pablo also said. So he was saying, I was thinking one of the problems I see in the fake news is they move the focus of the public opinion. I mean, when we find fake news, we use our time and efforts to check them and share their fake. This time we are not using it to spread our message and values.
Yeah, that's I've done a lot of trainings on positive narratives, because the thing is that you shouldn't wait for fake news to appear, even if it's about, especially if it's about you or your organization or your group of people, but to prepare for it. And to prepare for it means building positive narratives. This is the only way to reach other people. And what we see right now, for example, as a campaign, which I think is going pretty well in Romania, and not only about vaccines, is that they're not focused only on debunking fake news, which appear every day. There's a new thing about the vaccines, but telling how beneficial this is, and to focus on this, and not saying, no, those guys are stupid, they don't know that the vaccines work. No, we shouldn't focus on that. We should say, no, we have to do this because there is no other way, and this is safe, and we have to trust science, and these are the facts, and these are the proofs. And so yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on debunking. I would focus on promoting the good things in a topic, and also, yeah, this is a very, very good example of the vaccination, and I think we will struggle with it for at least 1 year from now. And it's very interesting to watch and to follow this phenomenon and how it affects people. And it's very interesting, for example, in Romania, and probably in other countries as well, you can relate to, in the beginning of the vaccination campaign, we all were talking about the non-believers, the anti-vaxxers. And as we discovered that we don't have enough vaccines, basically that discussion just disappeared because from the mainstream, because everybody was starting to get worried that we won't get to the vaccine. So I think that this struggle of discussing, do we have enough vaccine? How soon should we all get vaccines? And how are we organizing this? Is it okay or is it not? This just completely left aside the anti-vaccine discussion, because we don't care about this. Okay, you don't want to take the vaccine, it's your problem. We as a majority, we want to take it, and we are very concerned about how soon we're going to take it. So it's a way of shifting the attention. As Pablo said, we should really shift the attention to what's important, because definitely this is important, that we should show that we want to get vaccines. We have to be careful and to push companies to deliver the vaccines on time, to push governments to make it safe and make it fast and move okay and respect the rules. And then the other discussions will just fade away, because people will just discover that they're stupid or irrelevant at this point. So this is, yeah, definitely the strategy, if we can.
I also personally, about what Pablo said, I think is this power of sharing that we don't really understand sometimes. Because, for example, I'm sharing an article and I'm saying, this is fake news. This is so funny that someone believes that, I don't know, the Earth is not the only Earth out there and there are like 5 more. But at the same time, I think we don't really understand the power of sharing that thing. Yes, I'm making fun of it, but someone maybe is reading it and actually believes that thing. So also, you were mentioning at first, like in the 2000s elections in Romania, like we had this candidate who had like really extremist like ideas and discourse, and everyone is sharing memes with him right now, and he is a cool person and people learn about him, but they didn't learn about what he was doing and what he was believing in. They are just like sharing and sharing and sharing. And I think it's the same with fake news. Like, we don't really understand. Yes, I'm sharing this to tell everyone that it's fake, but maybe like even 1% of the people that are following me, they won't believe it's fake. They will say, oh, this is actually true, and this is how it gets out there. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, I think we learn as we go along. I'm sure all of you, when you are on Facebook and they bring you back some post you had like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, and you're slightly embarrassed, like, oh my God, I posted this. I was so stupid like that. So you wouldn't post that now. And I think we learn from it and we change and evolve as person. And also I think this is the point where we should understand if what we post on social media in general is helping or not. Is it helping? I'm definitely less bitter now on Facebook than I was 5 years ago. I was bitter on Facebook when something pissed me off, and I would say that and publicly argue with people sometimes. But I ended up saying, well, how is this helping? How is this helping? Is it helping anyone? If anyone would stumble on my post, would it help? Like, just, or at least not ruin something, not destroy something. So I think this is the first step we should do. What we share about on any social media platform, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, is it helping? Is it something it's needed? I mean, not everything is needed, because the pictures of cats are definitely needed. So it's a must. But really should know what is our contribution to the world with sharing things. Who are you helping? Who are we annoying or something? So we should just take a bit of time to think about it. I always have a rule, like, I don't post something immediately. If I get annoyed, or I'll just take, okay, let's take 10 minutes, half an hour. And if I still want to post this and I think it's okay, I'll post it. But I take my time now. Before I wouldn't. I would just probably post something quicker. But now I'm like, okay, let's chill. And if someone is arguing me, I try to push down the temperature of the discussion and say, okay, I understand this is your opinion, it's your problem. And also use the block function from time to time, just to not get crazy on social media.
Okay. Are there any like other questions or opinions? No? Okay, then I guess Carmina, she's thinking.
Yeah, I was thinking actually if I should ask this. I mean, I had some ideas, but maybe more ideas will help me. So I'll ask it anyway. It's a very simple, but probably not a lot of people think about it. Like, who are the most vulnerable, let's say, groups in a society that are attacked by the fake news?
That's complicated to answer. If we look at the, let's say, there was a very strong idea in Romania that only people over, let's say, 60 are vulnerable. Now, I think all possible proofs will show us wrong, because it's not the case. You can buy into this stuff even if you're 20 or 18 or 16. So I would say, and this I don't say according to a certain, let's say, statistic, but I think that the category of people who are more affected by a certain situation are vulnerable. So if now the teenagers are very affected, then they are very vulnerable. If they will be, things will get back to, let's say, a sort of a normal in a year, and they can get back to community and get back to their lives and festivals and traveling and whatever, they probably will be less vulnerable. And then we will get back to the other category who's affected. Let's say people over 50 who will have troubles finding a work place, or people who are old who will still be vulnerable to the virus, or I don't know. I think it's changing. And as I said, the fake news are so organic and they're so hard to contain and to spot, and to sometimes it's easy to spot, but some to contain, let's say, that they could really hit anyone. And I think if any of us, if we're going through a phase where we have, I don't know, not low self-esteem, but a bad mood, or life is not so great at that point, I think we are a bit vulnerable to buy into something. It doesn't mean that we will become overnight QAnon believers or flat earthers or whatever, but we are more vulnerable than we were. And we could be tricked into some things, because this is what we should all keep in mind. It's a choice to believe. It's not, you're not forced to believe. It's your choice to believe this. You want to believe this. You choose to believe it. You choose to disregard other news or other opinions. You choose your own niche and you want to go in that direction. So you don't know when you can choose that, to go that. I mean, there are a lot of cases of people who switched their political opinions, or becoming from progressive to conservatives, or vice versa. So we are very unpredictable. So we don't know exactly how we react. So if for example, if I get out of a job, or I go through a personal bad time, I definitely will be a little bit different than I am right now. And my, let's say, emotional availability to believe, embrace things will a bit change. So we shouldn't disregard any category. We should be careful, and try to identify for each period the category who's more vulnerable. And in this period, I think we should focus on young people. I would go 15, 30. Let's say this, I think we should worry about and focus on it very strong.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the categories change depending on topics and depending on whatever the fake news is about, I guess. So we should be careful about everyone around us. Anyone can be vulnerable. But I have now just came up a lot of questions in my mind. And one of them is, what is actually European Union doing, like legally? For example, I've heard about Stratcom, which is engaging into fighting against disinformation and propaganda, but I don't know about more information about this, or if you can tell me what exactly European Union is doing.
I don't have any information, too many informations about this either. I know that what they're trying to do is to regulate more. They're trying to regulate more, and there are stricter rules here than in any other place in the world. From GDPR to they take a lot more. They put a lot more pressure on the individual's rights, and they take it very seriously about having your right to your privacy. And definitely the Cambridge Analytica discussion was brought to Europe and to the UK. So this is where things got very tight and hot around this topic. So I think it's easier for the European Union to push this, because things are different even from the freedom of speech, let's say, point of view. We regulate and try to stay more contained in this regard, because we have a history of going in crazy places like the Second World War. So, for example, there are against the law in a lot of places using far-right symbols, and this is something which I think it's important to push, like, this is a no-go zone. We don't kid, we don't joke about this. And I think it's also, I think what's doing the best, the European Union right now, even if it's not, it doesn't seem like it's connected to fake news, but what's doing very well is that they are, in my opinion, moving pretty well in the pandemic. They for the first time look like an organism, like a body, a common thing, a common body. And especially with the vaccines, it's something which pushes the narrative of the fake news. They push it aside a bit. And we really see this when we look around. When we look around in other countries, I have friends from Armenia, from Georgia, from Albania, from Moldova, from all over, who are very, very anxious and about their future. They don't know when they will be able to travel. They don't know what type of vaccines they will be imposed to take, because you can't choose your vaccine. So you could end up with Sputnik, or we could end up with a Chinese vaccine, or you don't know exactly how your future will look like. Will you be able to travel if you have an uncertified vaccine? Or are you stuck in your own country? Or is this going to build more walls between us? So when you look outside the European Union, you see that problems are 10 times bigger, if not even more. And European Union is managing to do this in a very coherent way, in my opinion, fighting for vaccines, giving them for free to a lot of people. And we are in Romania, I mean, we have like 600,000 persons vaccinated in less than a month. This is huge. And this is what, as with discussion with Pablo before, was this is the best way to fight fake news, to prove that the good or the right part is doing what they're supposed to do. So, and I saw pretty good, they moved pretty well also online, pushing back disinformation. I never saw this at this level in European Union and European Commission, and everyone was really pushing and pressing you to make sure that what you read is right, and pushing to you the right information from websites. And also I think in the internet in general, they move pretty well. For example, yesterday I was writing something on a Canva. I was doing a report on Canva, and at some point I was mentioning something about COVID, and a window popped up and say, if you want to write something about COVID, you should go click here and get the right information. I was like, I'm in Canva, I'm not posting it anywhere. How do you know? And but it's that good that it's spotted something. And also something very funny, which in the beginning of the pandemic, I was searching for models of infographics on Pinterest about COVID, and Pinterest was just like blocked and say, no, for COVID, you shouldn't look here. You should go to the proper websites and get informed. And I was like, yeah, this is how you do it. I mean, I definitely wasn't going to spread this information from Pinterest. I was just searching for some cool infographics ideas, but they were like, no, you shouldn't be here. You want COVID information, go to the right place. Don't stay here. So I think it, even if it was like an explosion of fake news 2020, and it was crazy, it also pushed the institutions a lot further and faster than they ever imagined they could be, because they were so squeezed by this very, they saw that the fake news were taking life immediately, and this pushed them very hard. And I remember, just as to finalize this as an idea, I was in April going when we were before the lockdown, or in March or some, anyway, it was before before the complete lockdown, let's say, in Romania. And I was going to the supermarket, and we were just a bunch of people. And I saw on the telephone when I was entering the supermarket that there were some rumors that the lockdown is coming tonight. And when I went, I did my shopping, and when I got out, it was packed. I mean, the parking lot was packed, full of people. There was a queue outside already, and the news was not checked. It was sort of fake, because we didn't go into lockdown that evening. But it was amazing that the fake news or disinformation was becoming alive in half an hour. I mean, you literally saw it around you. So I think this is what the institutions also saw, and they said this is no joke at this point. It's one thing to believe that the earth is flat. It's whatever you believe it. It's your problem. Go find the end of the earth. But the other completely different thing is to believe that something is gonna change, and to go out on the streets and to do something radical or crazy. So this is what I think pushed them in a very good direction, and to curate information. I think we are facing now the better, so much better curated information about fighting disinformation. 1 year ago, it was so boring and long text, and now even someone from our team is working with the health ministry to design the communication material. So it wouldn't have been possible this 1 year ago. So they're learning fast, and they should.
Congrats on the working with that, and I'm really happy to hear that actions from NGOs and institutions like you and like us are going so far, and people notice there are some problems, actually some issues happening in our country, and they're taking some action. So really congratulations.
Let's hope it helps. Yeah.
I think it will, because I mean, as you said, maybe the progress is not going to be fast, but maybe COVID is going to push a little bit this action. So I hope it's going to be faster than it was before.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I have like any question right now, but if anyone else or has any point. No? Really? No questions? Okay. If nobody has any more questions, because I saw also on live nobody has questions here, nobody has questions. I guess this was it. The second edition of the European Café. Diana, thank you so much for. It was very clear for me. Okay, welcome. So. Thank you really so much, Diana, for coming and sharing the information. It helped me, and personally it helped me a lot. And I think also everyone that managed to see this, even if it's not now, they will see it maybe tomorrow, or we're gonna post it so they have a chance to see some information about fake news and all that we have discussed already.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck for the next steps you're taking. Good luck with Forum Apollon, because you're doing great job, and good luck for all the projects that are coming. Seeing they really look good.
Thank
you. I hope they will reach a lot of people, because I think this is, as an institution, as an NGO, what are you doing is trying to reach a lot of people. So I hope you're gonna reach even more this year with the project.
Let's hope so. Thank you. I'll send the congratulations to my colleagues as well.
Thank you, because you are, as a team, you are very engaging and very motivated. So really, once again, congratulations, and thank you for coming.
Thank you also.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, everyone else for joining and participating as well in the conversation. And I think we're gonna see Diana as well. Maybe not in the One Brave Thing, but why not in any other Patri event? Because we really love to collaborate before with you and with Forum Apollon, and we really hope we can do it in the future as well. And
definitely.
See you in the next European Café. That's gonna be, I think the topic is gonna be about gender and extremism. So in March, so we're gonna let you know about it, and have a nice evening as well. And thank you, Diana, again.
Thank you also. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Exactly. Nice evening and a really relaxing weekend.
Thank
And
you.
stay healthy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.